Welcome to the Notorious Scoundrels, a Star Wars Legion podcast bringing you the latest news, general perspective, and competitive discussion.
Hello and welcome back to the Notorious Scoundrels podcast. I'm here with Jay and Lucas. What's up, gentlemen?
Hello, hello. Happy to talk about some bounty hunters.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. They now have gold in the corner.
Yep.
And it may or may not be very similar to some tokens that we may or may not have released recently. And I would love to tell everyone that we did that on purpose, but I had no idea that that was going to happen. It was just a cool idea that we had, and lucky for us, it lined up. So, you know, go buy your order tokens from Fifth Trooper.
You're doing a little manifesting there. You made an art design. It happened to be like really similar to some unspoiled cards.
Well, it is the credit symbol, right?
Yeah. We did our own version of that, not to be infringing on anyone else's rights. But yeah, that was cool. That was a really, as soon as those cards got released, I was like, yeah, oh my god, we did it.
So we're going to talk about bounty hunters. There was a tournament this past weekend in the United Kingdom. Mm-hmm. It was a Worlds qualifier, which means they were giving away a flight to Worlds, whenever that is. We can look at the top 8 briefly. We're not going to talk super long about it because none of us were there, so we don't have any firsthand experience. But we can look at the top 8 and all that.
Yep.
Most of today is going to be bounty hunters. I'd love to promise that we will be talking about Force users, but I feel like that's become kind of a joke at this point.
It wasn't a joke before. You always had intents to talk about Force users.
Maybe one episode.
At least one episode. Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I have a lot to say about bounty hunters.
Yeah, I think that we'll have plenty to talk about today.
Make it,
and then we'll do some invader updates, some game updates. So, let's get right into it after housekeeping.
Yeah. Well, so I kind of mentioned it there. Order tokens are in and shipping. So if you want to get the new designs, hop on over to the store and get those. Mats and sidebars, I don't know, this week. Hopefully that's the plan, but it is not easy. And for those of you that have been emailing me consistently about when are they going to be in, I literally will ship them as soon as they come in, everybody. I swears as soon as they're in my hands, I'm going to box them up and I'm going to ship them to you. They said this week. So that's what I'm hoping. It's a little bit different than like a normal package in the mail. We're talking like pallets of stuff, right? That we're waiting on. And so, any minute now, those should be in. Let's see what else. The other thing is I put up a little teaser trailer up on our social medias today about some new barricades that we're going to be selling. So those will be up for sale this week. We got all the designs done. They're basically pre-colored, graphics MDF barricades that you can get. And we got 6 different designs. Some of them match factions that may be familiar to you that I won't name, and you'll like them. So buy them. And then let's see what else. Patreon. I'm really thankful for everyone that's supporting us on Patreon. You guys are what makes the blog and these podcasts and everything happen. And so thank you for supporting us. And for those of you that haven't signed up for Patreon, you can help support all the blog writers and all the great work that they're doing. We got a couple more blog writers. Our goal is to eventually be putting 2 articles out a week. I think we're pretty close to that. We
did it last month.
Yeah. So that's good. That's how much I pay attention. We did it last month. And I'm really excited about that. And just bringing all kinds of different perspectives. We've got our overseas correspondents now, so we're giving you updates from Europe on the tournaments going on there, which is very exciting because I know that we were actually just talking about this before we started the cast, that a lot of Europeans have been begging for some sort of inclusion and representation in the Legion community, and we're going to try our best to do that. And our man Lucas here is moving to Europe soon, and so he'll be able to do some reports back for us then too, which will be nice. And so support us on Patreon, and we could keep doing all these great articles and all this other great stuff that we're doing content wise. So that's it.
Yeah, that's the only reason I'm going to Europe, was to represent European Legion. No other reasons.
Yep. I made him an offer and he accepted, and he gave up his whole career and everything else for Legion. So you guys should thank him.
All right. How about we get to, speaking of Europe, why don't we open with discussing the results of this UK Worlds Qualifier?
Yeah, I mean, the results are that TFT's number one again, homie. Fifth Trooper in the number one spot.
Yep, AJST.
For those of you that don't know, AGST, he is from England, and he is a writer on our blog staff, and he's been doing reports from, he's our European correspondent currently. English correspondent anyways. And so, he's been giving us reports on the events going on there. And so they just had an event, and turns out he took number one.
Yep. Yeah, he didn't even tell us. I read I read like the tournament recap, and I'm like, oh look, Andrew won. Okay. Usually we're pretty like we talk a lot back and forth, and we have our own server that we talk strategy and stuff in Legion about, and Andrew just went like quietly, prepped for and then won this tournament and like didn't say a word about it. It's like
I think he even like talked to us about stuff today.
Yeah, he did.
About the
something completely different.
Completely different. Just never mentioned to us that he won this tournament.
It's pure humility right there. Anyway, he was running. It was a droid list with Dooku. Instead of choke, he had barrier, which I think is interesting. We were talking about Dooku with barrier a few episodes ago. A handful of B1s, 5 B1s, a T series, and then 2 Magna Guard with RPS, situational, and tenacity. So it's basically Dooku Magna's list. This one is 9 activations, essentially some more beef on everything to cut an activation. I think the one that we've been seeing in the US has been like 10 activations with a little bit lighter on the upgrades. But yeah, I mean, it's a good list. You have crit dodging Magnas that also have the support of barrier. So, you can eat those high velocity shots with barrier, those pierce shots. And then he also has aggressive tactics. So they're probably rolling searching saves. So
I think something really interesting that I brought was one B1 with a PK series worker droid, HQ uplink, and a portable scanner. It seems like between force barrier and the situational awareness Magna Guards, he's really playing off of having that like range 4 poke power and just be able to mitigate all of your different other threats. And then the PK is so good on Magnus, right? Those red saves getting prepared for 6 points a pop is pretty sweet.
It's really good. I don't know why more people don't bring worker droids with Magnus or spiders, really. I mean, 12 points is a little high for like a vehicle, but that's money in the bank for a durable trooper unit like Magna Guard.
I like it a lot in a list like this that's running 2 Magna Guards.
Yep, agree. The second place list was also a droid list. And I'm sorry if I mispronounce your name. It is Jana. I'm sure this is a German name. Maybe you can help me out here, Lucas.
I'm moving to Germany, but I don't speak any German. So.
I speak some.
Jan to me.
Jan, maybe? Is that a YJ? Anyway, I won't spend any further time butchering this poor guy's name.
Or Grail.
Yeah,
Could be Jane. Yeah,
that's true. And he or she ran General Grievous with 6 B1s with the E5S, the long range thing, T series, and 2 Magna Guard. So 10 activations. It's nice to see Grievous in here.
yeah, it's really similar to the previous list, but goes at the 10 activations and takes Grievous.
Yep.
And yeah, Grievous is a pretty spicy bring. I haven't seen Grievous placed in any top lists for quite some time.
Yep. I'd be curious, UK players, maybe you can tell us if there were any like Spider Kalani lists, because I did not see any of them in the top 8. And it seems like both of these lists would be weak to something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It could be that they were dense tables too. I don't know. I have not seen the tables, but UK players, if you have any intel on that, let us know because I'm curious. It's nice to see 2 Spider lists, droid lists succeed. So I don't know if that was because there were spiders there that they won against or just because nobody brought them because they got like voted off the island, so to speak, which is kind of what happened in Invader this last season, in the same way that it happened to Tauntauns back in the day.
So there have been some people playing Spider Droids in Invader, but I think they've all been knocked out. We could maybe touch on that in the Invader section.
Yeah.
But I know off the top of my head a few people who were playing it.
There were a handful, but
yeah,
it was definitely not like a super common / sought after build, at least in Invader.
Yeah.
So, and then we've got. We'll just quickly hit the remaining 6 lists here. They were evenly split between Empire and Rebels. 3 Empire, 3 Rebels. There was a one that had this madman Joff Port. Again, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name. Had basically a triple speeder bike, double ATST list.
Oh yeah, good man.
9 activation.
And the man after Jay's own heart, no doubt.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Speaking of being vulnerable to Spider Droids.
Yeah. And then we've got a Rebel list, Dave Grant with Luke. And this is interesting. This is kind of like Brian Bear's FD list. He's got a couple FD cannons, a speeder truck, and then Luke Skywalker, operative with some Rebel troopers with an ion, and droid poppers. So the double ion at range 1. And then some fleets and some Rebel commandos. So a very eclectic mix. I guess the speeder is for Luke Limbo because I don't see R2 in this list, or it could be for the fleets, the scatter fleets too.
Yeah, both fleets have scatter guns, and one actually has a 5th trooper in it as well. So it's a full 6-man squad.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's that 6-man squad, right? Because Luke can kind of do stuff himself, and you like a 6-man fleet trooper with scatter gun is pretty devastating.
It really is.
Pull off the disembark properly.
Yeah,
you can. There's a non-zero number of units in this game you can one shot with that attack pool.
Yeah, it's 12 dice with Pierce and an aim token. So yeah. All right, and then we've got a quote unquote standard Luke 5 Rebel Trooper Captain DLT, 2 Sniper, 2 Rebel Officer Vigilance list. That's kind of become the standard template for this. That's the same one that Zeus Juice ran and won Legion by the Bay with last week.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got a Vader list, kind of a normal quote unquote Vader gun line with Vader and Krennic and a bunch of Shores and some Death Troopers. And then we've got a Han list, Han, Chewie, and Luke. This one's interesting. And snipers, basically.
I think this is the same thing that Bushman ran at LVO. Maybe some slightly different upgrades, but very similar army.
Very similar. Yep. And then last but not least, another Empire list with Vader Commander and some Royal Guard and a bunch of T-21 Storms. So basically leaning into Commander Vader's Compel here, I assume. Seems pretty good.
Yeah, some solid lists. One thing that's really awesome with all this too is all the European events of late have had flights and hotels paid for, I believe, by either AMG or whoever is running organized play through Asmodee.
Yep, for first place.
Yeah, that's really awesome to see. I mean, like this is a 46-person event, so definitely like a like decently tough event to get through, but this isn't the only one. I think there's be 2 or 3 more all over Europe. And so it's really cool that AMG is supporting European players and, flying them out here so that people can't complain anymore. That Worlds is just, the North America finals, that it's actually a world event. So thank you, AMG and Asmodee, for, giving people flights, getting more of the community out to Worlds.
Yeah, and that should be some extra hype too for these events, right? If you win these in Europe, you can get a flight back to the States whenever Worlds is. So one more tidbit that we have to mention is the obvious absence of Gar from Republic from this top 8. I guess the best or least bad, however you want to phrase it, Republic list was 11th. And they were also the least played faction. So faction breakdown real quick. Out of 46 players, 8 Republic, 10 Separatists, 12 Rebels, and then 16 Empire. So lots of Empire. But yeah, sad face for Republic. This is very similar to what happened at Adepticon, where there were, out of 120 something lists, there were only 3 Republic lists that even had winning records. And none of them made day 3. So I feel like Republic has some really strong things it can do, but I think it also has a few really bad matchups. And so when you're at these events like this, where you're gonna have to go, 5-6 plus rounds, it's kind of like a dice in the bag. Like, you just have to not run up against one of those armies potentially. And so it's while Republic has some really great matchups, it has some really bad matchups that make it tough. Yeah, it's just not forgiving of mistakes or variance in either your matchup or the table you end up on. So that's been my experience playing them anyway. And you could easily make a great short form tournament run, even I'd say 5-6 rounds, but like, you get any more than that, you start, like, every additional game you play is an extra risk that you're going to run into a situation where the table or your matchup or both throws a wrench in your well-oiled machine. Anyway, we'll see if that continues. Hopefully that doesn't continue to be a trend, but
this hot take.
Yep. Listening.
Republic does better on TTS than it does in real life.
I don't think that's that hot of a take.
Okay.
I don't think it's super hot.
I agree with you.
I think they benefit from the more exacting details of TTS and measurements and line of sight and table setups. And
I think that's the biggest thing is consistent, balanced table standards that in advance.
Yeah,
right, generally.
Right, that you can practice on.
Right,
basically,
So, because in my experience, the biggest, certainly matchups are a thing, right? Like, if you run across a range 4 list, that could be a problem for you, because most Republic lists are range 3. But the tables is the biggest thing, because there's one of 2 possibilities. You could get like a super open table where you're extra in trouble against a list that has a bunch of high velocity snipers and or range 4, or you can get situations like where you have like a super big awkward line of sight blocker that you can't, you have to kind of like pick a side. And Republic lists are generally, now barks are a way to get around this, which I think would be a great topic for a future cast, but Republic lists generally want to be like in one spot so they can share those tokens. And if you're in one spot, you kind of have to pick that spot, and you don't have a lot of flexibility to like adjust if there's a giant line of sight blocker anyway. Right. So I agree with you though. They've been doing pretty well in Invader. I guess we can just do a tournament update here. They're doing really well in the much less important but nonetheless fun Legion Ladder elims, which actually I'm in. The top 4 in that was all Republic. Now, part of that is it's become kind of, this is actually the first season I've done it, but apparently it's some kind of tradition for the ladder elims participants to do some kind of theme. And it's sort of like a handshake agreement, like not everybody does it. This season, a significant portion of people just randomly flipped, not only for their faction, but also like for some list details, like just kept flipping coins on the Discord. So several people flipped for faction and like everybody got Republic. So it was essentially like Republic elims. I was one of those people. I also flipped for Force user versus not Force user. I got not Force user, and then I flipped for Wookiees versus Rex, and I got Wookiees. So I am playing a mass Wookiee list, and I played against Snyder last week. I managed to. He's the previous Invader champion. Managed to beat him. He was also playing a Republic list. He was running Anakin Barks. So I'm going to play against JJ, who's running Anakin Barks. I'm sorry, not Anakin Barks, Yoda Barks, in the final. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, that's a long way, Jay, of saying that I agree with you that Republic is a lot better on TTS than they are on real tables.
And I think for me, it's not just like some like pontificating on this and like it's what I've faced, right? Like I've faced Republic both in real life and on TTS with the current list that I've been playing for, that I've talked ad nauseum about for months and months and months now, and have utterly destroyed Republic on real life tables, but have been inversely destroyed on TTS. And it just seems like, I think there's a number. I know you want to say the terrain. I think that TTS provides a situation with perfect information that real life doesn't provide, that I think benefits all armies, but in particular allows Republic to be a lot more exacting in how they do things,
Which, if the two criticisms of Republic are that they, are vulnerable to variance, whether that's matchup variance or table variance, and also that they are not forgiving of mistakes. If you can be more exacting on TTS than you can on a real table, then you're going to make, in theory, you're going to make less positioning mistakes. So, that all tracks.
Unless you're like me, I don't know about you guys. Probably not you two. You're very analytical and are good with numbers. But like for those of people at home who are normal, it's been happening to me a lot lately. Like if I'm in the middle of a game, and we've talked about this a few times, like a burst of speed move, speed 3 move. If you do 2, it's just about, it's a little under, but it can be close to some range 3 shenanigans with Luke and force push and all this stuff, right?
It's about 2 inches shy. Yeah.
In my head, when I'm playing, I think it's the first move that's range 3, not both moves. And I can't get that out of my head. And I've literally done things like, and had to go, whoa, wait. What am I doing? Like, this is crazy. This is crazy, Jay. You're being crazy right now. That can't be range 3. That's speed 3. Like, anyways, I get all mixed up. And TTS is super punishing for that.
Yeah.
Well, I guess speaking of TTS people doing well with Republic, Mr. Doc Velo Evan from the 5th Trooper, little TTS Invader update I'll do real fast. So I think Timbo, he was on last week, right?
Yep.
So Timbo won his game. I think you mentioned it. He played against Mr. LJ Pena Talk Play, and he was playing the Double Spider Tank Army, and he got that one. I was able to tune in for some of Evan Doc Velo's game against Codec, and it was a VAPS game. And basically early on, there were like some Velo was blue, so Codec had to come to him. He like tried to feint with a unit to the side, and Evan Doc Velo just like one-shotted it with a fired support shot. I can't remember if it was a saber throw fire support or something else, but it was a big fire support that just like one-shot this unit and just like killed that flank like dead in its tracks. And so the rest of the game after that was basically like Codec trying to come in and tap the VAPs, and was able to pull that off. So congrats to Evan. He's in top 4 for East Coast. So I believe he's the only 5th Trooper that made it East Coast. And then on the West Coast, so results of my game, sadly, Timbo is also going to be the only one making out West Coast. I played against Droids Rule, who actually knocked me out of Invader single elims in round of 32 2 seasons ago.
Whoa.
Okay.
Sorry, everybody. Just our video feed went wonky there for a second.
Right? Zoom freaked out for a second.
Yeah.
Droids Rule knocked me out in the same round of 32. playing a Sabine army, and I don't know if anyone caught that game before, but that was the game where he like blew up half of my army. He did something like 16 wounds with 1 explosions. So I had a little bit of PTSD from that going into this game. The game was really close in the end, so I didn't get killed by explosions this time. I learned my lesson. But I was playing my Iden tactical strike list with the 3 dudes. He was playing Sabine, Clan Ren, 2 Wookiees, and then I think 2 Rebel Vets, 2 of the Mark IIs, a Rebel officer with Vigilance, and then a Naked Fleet, I believe. And so basically, like round 1, it was intercept the transmissions and breakthrough with it's called supplies. What's the thing called?
Recover supplies.
Recover the supplies. Yep.
Yep.
And so we basically I almost got there. One of the big things in this game was he did have SABCOMs, which is sabotage communications. It's a 1 pip that counters tactical strike. What it does is it forces your opponent to only give out 1 order. And my card, tactical strike, they only get the effect if they get an order, and I'm supposed to hand out 4 orders. And so it's a tough start because at any time, right, I have to basically try and flush that card out or try and call a bluff and play it sooner. So turn 1, he played pretty conservatively, and I could have tactical striked, but there wasn't any super great value. And I was more hoping maybe I could feint some tac strikes and have him go after it. So I deployed Iden fairly aggressively, but he called my bluff, and we both just played standing orders. And like I grabbed a box and retreated with Iden. After that, it was a little bit of positioning. And then turn 2, he swung wide on one flank with the Wookiee and was able to just one-shot a dewback, which really set me back on my heels. But luckily, I was able to force out his sabotage communications on turn 2 because I had that dewback that was kind of out that I didn't expect to get one-shotted, but it was in a not a great spot. So that was a bad position by myself. And then I had a ISF who is in the open because I had end of turn moved out and shot his Wookiees who are advancing. And so I played a 1 pip to his 1 pip, took the shot, hid. And then after that, it was explosions versus tac strike. And explosions hit a lot of my stuff, but most of its wounds just went in on my core. I was able to pretty much preserve a lot of my ISF after that. And tac strike essentially killed his entire flanking force at that point. So I killed Sabine. I killed the Wookiees. He had Clan Ren up there also. But between tac strike and the next turn, I followed up with pulse scan. I like shot a bunch of his things. One thing of note that was really tough this game was with the Mandos and Wookiees. He kept on jumping on all the roofs and shooting me. And if you guys know, dewbacks cannot climb. So my dewbacks this game are really struggling to get value. Normally they're great at screening these aggressive threats, but I kind of had to lean on my tac strike to like clear out my backline because all these jumping Mandos and scaling Wookiees are on buildings where I couldn't touch them. But as the game advanced, he won the first 2 intercepts. So he had the center and back. So it was 4-2. So essentially I had to tie on points in the final turn. But I was ahead on kill points because I killed Sabine and Wookiees and different things. So going into the final turn, we had done some back and forth trading. I had a stormtrooper who like clutched out a full save. So essentially he was trying to backcat me with his Mandos. And like he couldn't kill a stormtrooper that was like on 1 health. So with that, I then had a dewback who was moving in to try and kill a Mark II cannon. The Mark II had 2 wounds remaining after all this trades. And so my dewback ran in, rolled 3 hits, and he got the double save. And that was like the last activation of the game. So it was a super fun game. Like the entire time it was swinging back and forth. Like early on, he was like one-shotting things. And I was losing all this attrition. And then tac strike put me back in the game. And then at the end, it was like, oh, he's got this down. He's going to backcat me because he was able to like pick off the stormtrooper, and my stormtrooper full saves. And then the dewback came out. So it was a really fun when Zodiac casted it. And so droids again knocks me out in round of 32. So I am sadly out with that. But super great dude. And we got Timbo still on the West Coast. So it was a fun finish. I think it was a fun game to play. And it seemed like a fun one to watch since it was very back and forth, a lot of stuff dying. But yeah, good luck to droids and Timbo and everyone else. I look forward to seeing the Invader finals. I'm really looking forward to like cheering on regions kind of. Like I'm excited to see, how it plays out, that we have the top 4 from Europe, top 4 from what is it? It's like Pacific Asia area.
Yep. Asia Pacific, which is like Australia, and then Asia, and then US is two separate regions. So
East Coast, West Coast. So I'm excited to see that shake out. Got a lot of good players. I was stoked to see that also Hamo made it, who's a SoCal person. I was hoping that if I was able to make it, I could have said, half of the West Coast people are all SoCal. Darth Vader also got knocked out in this round. So I was like kind of secretly hoping for the full SoCal sweep, because if Talk Polite, myself, Habmo, and Darsal won, we could have been like literally within a 1 hour radius, all been there, but stars didn't align.
Well, that's very exciting for all the people that are advancing. I think there might only be like one game left. I think they're playing right now, actually, Bees and Luke Cook, to decide who the last kind of like second elims phase spot goes to. So good luck to everyone playing in that. I'm sure we'll be watching. I will be rooting on our NA East brethren, as well as Tim from the West. So yeah, good luck to everybody.
West Coast, Best Coast,
East Coast, Beast Coast. All right. Why don't you guys want to talk some bounty hunters?
Do we have time?
Yeah, it's
already.
Want to
talk about force users instead.
Yeah. No, we should definitely hit them.
Get this Lucas guy talking about bounty hunters. We might never end this podcast.
I know.
Yeah,
I think
let's do it, I guess.
I feel like we have to, though, because people have been anxiously waiting for the bounty hunters, and we finally got them. I guess the good news for brevity purposes is that they are not completely new units, though they did receive a lot of changes to their cards.
Yeah.
So
it's the same bounty hunters, but like better and more flavorful all at once.
Yeah. You got Boba, Boosk, and Cad Bane as the new versions of the bounty hunters. So
yeah.
No, let's just get right into it.
All right. Go ahead, Lucas.
I'll read off Bosk, since he's my boy. That
Boosk.
Sorry, Boosk.
Yeah.
Boosk, since he carried me through most of my early Legion career. So I figure I should just talk about the differences for sake of brevity, so everyone should be familiar with these characters.
Right.
I think one of the biggest changes for Bosk, he was already in a Boosk. He was already in a great spot overall. Right, a decent character. He could fit in some areas. He got a 10 points cut, which is like a deep cut for a unit that was decent.
Yep.
That wasn't all he got. He also got scale, which puts him in line with other like Wookiees and other things like that. They gain scale, makes him a lot more mobile, and for Bosk's play, that's huge since he likes to peekaboo often. And then he gained Independent Surge 2, which is new keyword. If you don't have an order, you gain 2 Surge tokens. I think my main takeaway here is like scale is really helpful. Independent Surge is like Bosk is order hungry. I don't know if this makes him not order hungry, but 10 points off of Bosk. Woo.
Yeah, scale and the 10 points are the two big things here.
Oh, one other big thing. He can be played in Separatists now also. That's another key
also
factor.
Yes.
Yeah. Can't forget that.
Yeah, they still haven't told us how these guys factor into Shadow Collective. But the assumption is that you'll be able to somehow use them in Shadow Collective Battle Force.
Yeah.
Since they're part of this release. But yeah, you can use them in Separatists and Empire. We can get to it when we talk about Cad Bane, but
I was gonna say, I feel like I want to talk about the bounty hunters and lists as a whole.
Yeah. Let's just rattle off. Let's continue rattling off the changes to them here, and then we can kind of give our individual takes and where we think list building stands with these guys. How's that?
Sure. Sounds good to me. So Boba, no points changes. So you might be a little sad about that. But he got, I'd say, more significant buffs than Bosk did as far as his actual stats. So first one is he got a comm slot, which is nice. He gained independent aim 1 or dodge 1. So if he doesn't have an order, he can get an aim or dodge. I like this a little bit for if you're lasting with him. Some lists can pull off with like
improv
orders. You can essentially shuffle them and delay them, and having a free aim is really nice on those turns. The big changes is his integrated rockets are now called integrated rockets. I think they used to be called wrist rockets.
They did. Now you can do the knee rocket motion from Book of Boba Fett, where he's like shooting with in one direction, and he does like the Captain Morgan and shoots rockets with his knee in the other direction. Yeah. I think it's obligatory now whenever you shoot his integrated rockets, which I will forever think of as knee rockets, to do that in a game.
And with that new keyword, they have a new weapon profile. They are still range 1 of 2, still impact 1, but now it's 3 black dice and versatile. So I think especially leans into that whole knee rocket idea. We saw a lot in Mando and Book of Boba Fett that Boba is, beating people up and shooting rockets, while punching them and kicking them and whatnot. And so it kind of makes sense. His other buff similarly has to do with his close range profile. He gets an extra red dice on his melee attack. I think my general takeaway is I think Boba's best way to be played often was aggressively. And I think people didn't lean into that. And I think this basically now makes it very clear that like Boba Fett's an aggressive unit now. 5 dice at range 2 is deadly, 3 reds and 3 blacks coming out of melee. Like if you just dive into a B1 gun line, like you flame a unit, kill a unit, boot spikes, rocket another one, whip cord out, like he seems like he wants to be up in there and hunting after targets, like especially against CIS. How terrifying is this profile when you have like a T series and Boba is going to be totally safe whip cording and flame throwing around your gun line, and then he's just going to pop out and bounty a T series. I think these buffs are really nice for Boba. It definitely makes him competitive, viable choice.
Yep.
Yeah.
The independent, I feel like with him specifically, I feel like you could take it or leave it just because of all the bounty hunters. I think he's probably the most timing sensitive.
Yeah.
It'd be great to get the free tokens, but I don't think you can leave him without an order.
Yeah, he's only Empire still, right? Because he's just a little kid during CIS time, so you can't get that perfect order control. But I think with improvised orders, you might be able to sometimes pull it off, come swinging out with a name.
I'd like to point out, and maybe to counter Lucas' take a little bit here, defensively, they haven't really done much, right? Like he gets the dodge, I guess, for independent, but I've always found that Boba could be very much a glass cannon where and Sabine's kind of the same way. I mean, she's got nimble and some other dodge stuff going on, but like with Boba, you're like, all right, I surge, I got red, I got impervious, I'm going to be all right. And the next thing you know, you're dead. You're just dead. And so I would struggle still with Boba, and especially without going down in points. I would still struggle. Like, we don't know what the command cards, if they're updating command cards, or if there's going to be more. We have no idea if those help. Yeah. But right now, I still wouldn't take Boba. Still.
I would.
Yeah.
I think you guys
I think
are wrong.
He looks amazing.
I think you're wrong. And I think you guys are going to get him on the table, and you're going to find out that he's still a glass cannon. And you're going to be like, oh, yeah, Jay was right.
Yeah, but now you can just like dive into melee with him, and like and that helps shore that up.
Like I'm telling you.
Well, and honestly, like all characters are glass cannons for what you're paying for them, especially the combat focused ones, right? Like he's actually, more durable than most other characters.
Whatever you want, Kyle. I'm telling you, you're wrong, and I want this to be marked down. What's today? June 6th. Jay said Kyle's wrong, and Boba isn't going to be any better than he was.
We'll see.
Mark it.
We'll see. I have a list I want to talk about later, but I think once this stuff comes out, I have a list I'm going to try and prove you wrong with.
All right.
You can verify, Jay, that I, in fact, did order Boba Fett just recently.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I did see that.
Yeah.
Listen.
Okay. My current plan is to play him for Nova Open.
All right. Well, good luck, everyone. Okay, good, because we're in the same heat. So I hope you do, because I want your sweet Elo.
Name someone who has sharpshooter 2 that can shoot 5 dice with Pierce 1 at you.
Listen, I'm not commenting on his offense at all. You guys are correct on his offense. Huge upgrades there. I think that's great. Is he going to take out some stuff? Yep. And then he's going to get taken out right after that.
We'll see. I'm optimistic.
Because here's why. No, I'm not. I'm going to fight this because you're going to get aggressive with him, Lucas. I can hear it in your voice already. You want to be running him into stuff. And I think it's a mistake with Boba. I think that this is like tricking you into doing something you shouldn't do with him.
I disagree. I played a lot of double bounty for a while, but
How'd
we'll
that
touch
go
on that
for
with
you?
lists. Well, it went well in Invader League, not in real life, but
Yeah. All right. Let's hit Cad Bane.
Guess what's the only thing that matters? Real life.
Yeah. Not the only thing, Jay. Yeah. It's definitely more fun. I'll say that much. All right, Cad Bane. Let's hit him. I'll hit him because I love me some Cad Bane. Yeah. He's got the biggest list of upgrades. And in fact, I'm going to reference my article, by the way, which you can catch on the fifthtrooper.com/blog if you want more detail here. He's got the biggest list of changes. So I'm going to rattle them off here. Increased danger sense from 2 to 3. He's got independent dodge 2, which is easily the best for a variety of reasons of all these independent keywords. He got surge crit from surge hit. He got an extra training slot, so he now has 2 training slots, and he got a cut of 10 points. That's a lot of things.
Yeah,
it's a lot of things.
I mean, clearly, like all of these things kind of add together, but independent dodge 2, where you can field him in a faction where you can reverse sort your pool and still have control of him while also getting independent. I mean, give him situational awareness and 2 free dodges every turn.
This is the one independent I think you can build around that. Like, it's, I mean, I guess you could put Bosk in a CIS list and get it by, happenstance. But I think this is one where like him proccing independent makes him way better than Cad when he's not proccing independent. And with these changes, I think he's already good even if he's not proccing independent.
Yep. And unlike Bosk, you can give him a comms relay so that even on the turn where you want to play his cards, you can still proc independent.
Yep.
Because for those that don't know, since it doesn't come up that often, when you play a command card, you are required to give basically as many orders as you can from the command card. So like when a command card says Bosk or Cad Bane or whatever on it, you can't just be like, I'm going to decide not to give him an order. That's not how it works. You have to issue the orders from the command card. But if you give Cad Bane a comms relay, and you play a Cad Bane card, you can bounce his order to a B1 or something, and then still get those 2 free dodges. So he can also be taken in Empire now.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I'm not. So I've been toying with a lot of lists, and I'm not as much sure if I want to bring Cad and Empire as much as CAS because that independent is huge, and Boba is a little less reliant on independent, and I think Boba's also really good now. So when I was list building between the two, I find it for Empire, if you're wanting to go like a double bounty, you're probably doing Bosk and Boba, whereas Separatists, I think Cad Bane and Bosk is also a really nasty option. Like you can do, there's so many different ways you can go with it too. I know at least in our group Discord, we had like a whole back and forth where everyone's just like posting new double bounty ideas for Separatists in particular. Like the one I like is 10 activations. You have Kalani, Bosk with Hunter and targeting scopes, Cad Bane with Hunter, situational awareness, comms relay, 6 B1s with E5Ss and the extra droid. And then you have a IG 100 Magna with situational and RPS 6. So you just got like a beefy B1 gun line with a Magna Guard in case there's something in melee. And then you got Kalani to just be giving dodges and aims to your aim hungry Bosk and your dodge hungry Cad. So kind of just like 10 activations of Separatist beef with 2 bounty hunters that you have perfect order control on.
I was just thinking, this is an incredible release. Like the amount of content, the amount of units, like, because I was just looking, like we were talking about this and I was going through the list builder, legionhq.thefifthtrooper.com. I was going through the list builder and I was going, they like these madmen added like, not just for Shadow Collective, but you got two new commanders basically for almost every other faction. You've got bounty hunters, moving in and out of factions. You've got two more core units coming in and out of factions. I mean, like, this is an insane release. And then if you're going to play Shadow Collective, you've got 3 new commanders, 4 new operatives, two core and one special forces, like, and then not to mention like the fact that you could probably throw the speeder and whatever else is that hasn't been leaked yet, right? Like, this is an insane release. I'm very excited.
Well, and what's impressive too about it is that everything we've seen so far is like kind of like that right level of, yeah, that's pretty good. It's not busted, but it's pretty good. It's kind of like that balanced sweet spot, in addition to also just being a giant dump of content for multiple factions, which is really impressive when you think
along
about
those same lines. And I think it's just probably another, now that I'm thinking it before I say it out loud, it's just another way of saying what Kyle just said, just differently, is that I'm like looking at lists, building stuff, but going, I don't feel like I'm left out by not taking the new hotness.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I take the new hotness, I don't feel like I'm like hamstringing myself either. So it's like, I mean, they're doing a great job. This is a great release. I'm thoroughly impressed with this. This may be, you know what, controversial take, this may be the best release they've put out. I think this may be the best release since the second core set came out.
Oh, definitely since the second core set.
Yeah.
No question.
Yeah, I might agree too. Just so much content and so much of it is balanced. Like, there's been nothing that just seems like a dud and nothing that seems insanely busted so far. I mean, we don't have all the rules yet. So I think with the bounty hunters, we have the best idea of kind of how bounty hunters will probably fit. We don't know how the force org is limited, because we know they said they're going to limit how many you can take. So it's not clear if that's like rank by rank or faction wide. So that's one thing. Like, maybe you have to take allies at convenience to field double bounty. But like, I think with these bounty hunters, my takeaway was it didn't make bounty hunters like the end all be all. Like, the metas could be all bounty hunters. But I think like bounty lists are now up there with all the other stuff that's killing it. Which is what you want to see, right? You don't want to be less options. You want just like, oh, this is another thing that like I feel like I could take to a tournament competitively and be happy about.
Well, and you don't want to feel like, you're right. And you don't want to feel like 40K, where if I don't take Space Marines or something, super, what is it? Which one's the real Space Wolves or something like?
It depends on the time.
Yeah,
whichever codex is newest, basically.
It's always Space.
Whenever we just released their new codex.
And that always feels bad, right? Like, because that used to happen in fantasy too, where like, when the codec came out, like whatever one was newest was the one that was spanking everybody, and that doesn't feel great. So this has been, I'm really excited.
Yeah.
I'm feeling overwhelmed a little. Like, I know the first few tournaments, probably Nova and Gen Con will be the first big tournaments they're going to be confusing. There's going to be a lot of rules questions.
Yeah.
Even guys like us who are talking about this every week aren't going to know all the rules. And we're going to go, wait, whoa. Just everybody stop. What is happening right now?
Yeah. Yeah. The first fun one I saw is, does Cad Bane get dodge tokens from independent if he's not on the table yet?
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
I think the answer is probably because there's no ruling on that one specifically, but there's rulings on like if you have a unit that's rapid reinforcements and it has something like reliable, does it get those tokens? And it's been answered that yes, they do. So I don't see why it would be any different than that. So yeah.
So gross for like recover the supplies of the CAD. You just like pop up on the center box, grab it, move
with 2 dodge tokens.
2 dodge tokens and jump 1.
Yep. Yeah, and you can even, if you want to just fake them out, you can put a bomb on the center box instead of Cad Bane. It's like, yeah.
Well, I mean, and like, all the other options, like, okay, you want to get aggressive with Boba and you want to keep him alive. So if, let's say I'm right and let's say you're right, and you want to be aggressive, and he's going to be a glass cannon. Well, if you play him in Separatists, you could put him in the speeder truck, and you could just pop him out, like speed him up there, and then pop Boba out.
Shadow Collective, you mean?
Or Shadow Collective? Yeah. What did I say?
Separatists.
Oh, separate. Yes, Shadow Collective. You could put him in the AA5 and drive him up to wherever you want him to go.
Yep. Yeah.
That's crazy.
It is.
That's like Boba or Bosk or Cad Bane or Maul could be in a bus, and you're just like, yeah, they're there now. Good luck with that.
So have they said who goes in the Shadow Collective and who doesn't? Because I feel like they're probably with most of them, but isn't Boba like a little kid during Shadow Collective times?
No.
So the short answer is kind of, but it's not clear whether so it's called Shadow Collective.
Yeah,
and it clearly seems to be specifically targeted at like the Clone Wars season 7 time period. But Maul continues to do like the Crimson Dawn thing afterward, and it's thematically very similar. Like it's a crime syndicate basically. He has Pikes, he has Black Suns in it, and during that time period Boba is older. So I think it doesn't seem any worse to me than like Maul being available in Separatists, even though Separatists weren't a thing.
That is true,
during Phantom Menace. So yeah, I think that would be fine. I think it would be weird to have a release with all these units in it where you can't like use them together.
Yeah. I think the thing that was making me think about that was Gar Saxon and all the super commandos technically fight for the Empire. So a lot of people are thinking it'd be a dual faction for Empire.
Yep.
But they're not, because like their sculpts, right, are not Empire age sculpts.
Yeah, they're very different looking when they fight for the Empire.
Yeah. And so that was my thought maybe with Boba, that like, unless we get like a little kid Boba.
But also we don't really have the full read on Underworld connections either, right? So just because they're Shadow Collective only doesn't mean that Underworld connections can't bring them into any other, right? So there's a lot of rules,
special rules
that we don't know yet, right?
Yeah.
Like the other one was, can you have 3 bounty hunters with Underworld connections, right? We don't know if Underworld connections breaks rank rules.
Triple bounty. I hope that's a thing. That would be so fun.
All right, I'll tell you
it'd be hard to make it work, but
Lucas, you make it work. If you could do triple bounty, you do it, pal. Do it.
I think I'm gonna be if triple bounty is possible, I'll give it a shot. But the one that I want to run, and this is the list I think I'm gonna try and prove you wrong with, Jay, that I think Boba is gonna be really good with this.
Okay.
It's basically my old double bounty list I ran, but just like way better because they got a ton of points dropped since then. And Boba is like better than it used to be. So it's 10 activations, Imperial Officer with improvised orders, electro binoculars, Boba with Hunter, Sees, Recon Intel, Bosk with Hunter, Sees, targeting scopes, 3 storms of T-21s, captains, offensive push, 2 storms of T-21s, and specialists, and 2 snipers. So you have 10 activations, 795, basically like 5 beefy core, 2 snipers, your hunters, supported by an officer. And then as far as my command cards, I dropped Bosk's 1 pip for ploy. Thinking there is Bosk's 1 pip is really good against red saves, all right, because it gives the poison token out. And I think this list between the 2 snipers, Bosk and Boba, like has a really good matchup against those armies already. And so I'd rather just have ploy because it's basically a 1 pip that either gives you 2 surges on Bosk or a name or a dodge on Boba. And I think a 1 pip giving Boba a name with that aggressive play is actually pretty huge. Like being able to first with Boba and like have a target and proc Hunter and that, like 2 aims on a 5 dice pool is pretty rough with Pierce. So yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna be trying to run if this list is legal, assuming that. So the thing is, if it's like limited by Force Org, where it's like you can only have 1 shadow or 1 mercenary commander, 1 operative, 3 core, however they do it, it'd mess this up quite a bit because it really needs improvised orders. But assuming that the limitation is on total units you can have in your army, I'm really excited to try something like this.
Okay, you want your mind blown? What about, this was something I was playing with a long time ago, but you could have Vader double bounty. And you can get up to 10 activations.
Man, what command cards do you take?
I don't know.
That's
3 units there,
that's
yeah,
like
but
so much greed for command cards.
so
Yeah.
but what I liked with that one and what I was playing with, and I mean, listen, I played a couple games. They weren't great because the points, but you could like, if you can't recover the supplies, you can like new ways to motivate Boba into a box grab, and then off he goes.
Yeah.
Whip cords away.
Yeah, he
That was
just
a pretty
you
funny
just new
combo.
ways. He takes a wound, and now he can move, grab, move, and he's just gone, and the box is gone.
Yeah, he's got Juyo mastery for a box grab,
Yeah,
basically. Yeah. I actually just painted my Vader. It's very exciting.
Yeah, you did like a blue object source sliding paint job, right? And he's got
Yeah, it's kind of hard to
blue
see,
from
I'm
below.
sure.
Yeah,
But
that's cool.
yeah, it was pretty much. It took me about an hour, pretty much all airbrush, and then I did the
God, I
little.
love airbrushes.
So, like,
I know,
highlights on
it's-
top of it.
No, I didn't do any highlights on top of it. All of the color that you see like on his cape and all
That
this
was a
other
straight
stuff.
airbrush.
Straight airbrush.
Dang.
The only thing that's regular brush is like like his belt buckle and the little buttons, and then the lightsaber. That's it.
Dude, I need to get more confident with my airbrush. I use it for like priming and zenithal, and then like on vehicles I'll do stuff with it or terrain. But for little models like that, I haven't gotten confident enough. But like I thought in that cape, what you did was just like blast it with blue, and then took like a light blue and highlighted it over it for like those ripples. But
Yep.
is it just like the angle of the airbrush? It just sits on top and doesn't go deep.
Yeah. So like the airbrush can only paint what it can see. That's like the mantra with the airbrush, right? So if you take it and this is going to be hard if you're not watching on YouTube, but if you hit it from the like where the cape ripples are, if you hit it from the side, it's only going to hit the top of the ripples, right? So you just do like a dark blue, and then you go down a little bit and you kind of, angle it over the course of the cape, but still we're only hitting the top of the ripples. And then you do a light blue, and then you angle it even sharper such that you're only hitting like the very top of the cape ripples. And that's all you need to do. Like it looks like blended, but it's not. It's just literally two colors. And that's the same with like the front on his whatever, the front of his body, and like on the top of his helmet and stuff.
Yeah.
And then it makes OSL super easy too. You can't really see it on the camera, but he's got like lightsaber red OSL a little bit on his shoulder.
I love the blue and red. It's a nice paint job of having like the blue paint job for his body. And then it really makes the red pop a little more.
Yeah, that was our painter Dustin is the one that he had a really awesome looking operative Vader. And I'm like, how did you do that? And he's like, you should try using blue for black instead of gray. And I'm like, okay. And I've been painting black with blue ever since. It's great. So I did some Death Troopers in the same fashion. So yeah, super, super easy to do black that way, because usually black is pretty difficult, because like how you highlight up from black, right? Without making it look white. But yeah, blue, dark blue. Impromptu hobby segment.
Yeah, mix in whatever. I do all my empires on like desert bases, so I'll actually do my black up to like I'll put a little beige into it. So I think my general thinking is it looks like reflecting in the environment. So like, if you're in a warm environment, highlight up warmer, or if you want to have the opposite effect, if you really want to pop, you can do the inverted. So like if you're doing a desert base, you could do blue, and then like your model will really pop. Depends what you're going for, but
yeah, there's actually an airbrush technique too. I don't know if there's an official name for it. Somebody who's more knowledgeable about painting can correct me, but that I use on all my stuff that's white, so including like my stormtroopers and stuff. You're not going to be able to see it on the thing, but here's like a sand trooper dude. And basically whatever color your basing is, when you're doing the airbrush, you hit like from the underside of the model with a wash that is that color. Before you do, like, at least for white, I'll hit like the wash from the underneath, and then I'll hit white from the top. And then it looks like this color contrast where you have like the color of your basing reflecting from the bottom, and then the white reflecting from the top. So it's super easy. It's like two colors, and it looks pretty good. So They're more
All the
airbrush
fun
hacks.
things you got to do when you're painting an army of all black and white models.
Yeah. so much black and white. Yeah.
They're so much harder than like you think, you know, and you're like, oh yeah, they're just stormtroopers. It's gonna be easy. They're literally out of all the models I've painted, they're like the nightmare models where you're just like, oh god, I can't win with this.
I feel like I've gotten it down for my guys. I have my method down, and I did some rebels and having to like paint different colors than the lines. I got super good with like, I got my wash right to the right consistency. I like it. And I have like a technique where I wash it super heavy and take like a wet paintbrush with just water and like dilute it down to like add on natural highlights, which makes it real quick. So you just go white, paint in the black, and then like soak it in wash and whisk it away, and you're pretty much done.
Interesting.
And so that makes it real fast. But it took me a while to get comfortable with that because I had to get like my mixture of like wash to water ratio just right. But it's made it really fast for me. Now it's little detail models that take me forever. But it's been fun, like painting Cad Bane. Now he can be running Empire, and he looks good in CIS. Is super fun. I don't know if you guys saw, but I've been taking a nail file to his hat and slowly making his hat smaller and smaller to get the cowboy version from Book of Boba Fett and later on, because he has that huge one, and I just hate the giant hat so much, and so it's been taking me a while, but I think I'm almost there now. Whenever I'm watching TV, I just bust out the nail file. I'm just like slowly filing down the sides, making sure not to scratch the paint job.
Yeah, there's actually a great episode. I don't know if it's that hat that he acquires, but it's definitely a hat. It's a Clone Wars episode where Obi-Wan goes undercover as a bounty hunter, and they're having like, it's essentially like a Hunger Games style bounty hunter contest. They're not explicitly supposed to kill each other, but they're all like hanging around at the initial thing, and some other random bounty hunter's wearing a hat, and Cad Bane doesn't have a hat. I forget how he lost his hat, but he walks up to the dude and he's like, in his Cad Bane voice, which I'm not going to be able to do, but he's like, nice hat. And then he just like draws on him and shoots him in the face. And the hat falls off, and Cad Bane puts on his hat, and Obi-Wan is looking at him like in disgust, and Cad Bane looks at him and he's like, what? It's a nice hat. As if that was perfectly a justified reason to kill somebody for their hat. I think that is the short hat, but I could be wrong. Someone with more that's seen that episode more recently can correct me. But
they will.
I know. That's why I'm. I genuinely want to know. That's why I'm making the appeal.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I love Cad Bane. Well, I guess quick spoiler warning: he's in Book of Boba Fett towards the end. I love how it looks in that show. I think it's been long enough. That show's been out. We're on to
I think we're good. I think we can now
do Boba Fett spoilers.
Can I tell you guys something? Big news in the Shalansky household.
Yeah.
So Rachel is a Star Wars fan.
Okay.
And so we've been watching all the like Book of Boba Fett, Mandalorian. We're watching Obi-Wan now. She says to me the other day, and the reason I'm bringing this up was because it was all because of Cad Bane. So when he showed up in Book of Boba Fett, I like audibly gasped and went, "Oh my god, it's Cad Bane!" Like, and she didn't know who it was and didn't understand why I was so excited, right? So she says to me the other day, she goes, "I think it's time." And I said, "Time for what?" She goes, "I think we need to watch all the Star Wars stuff in order, including the cartoons, because I need to get caught up."
Yes.
And I was like, "Oh my god, it's happening." I like my brain shut down. I didn't even know I was like, I don't even know if this is possible. Like, we don't have enough time for this. Like, I just like
it's like the only the meat. The filler list for Clone Wars. I highly recommend it. Clone Wars is one of those shows that it's by Dave Filoni. So like character arcs, like Ahsoka's character arc in that show.
It's great.
Like, amazing.
So is Anakin's.
So is Anakin's. Like great storytelling. But it was a kid's show, so there's like random ones with like Jar Jar Binks and R2D2 that are a bit goofy. So I'd say take the no filler thing that hits like all the hard hitting episodes. So the last 4 episodes of Clone Wars with Maul and all that,
amazing.
With Shadow Collective coming out, you gotta watch that because like that's literally where it comes from.
So I was gonna do the research to get like the no filler one, but then get everything in order and then just go off of that, because it gets dicey with Clone Wars and Revenge, and like when you're supposed to start what at what time, so
for Revenge of the Sith, I don't want to spoil anything, but the end of Clone Wars makes it pretty clear where it is in the timeline.
It's Clone Wars is between the entire series. Clone Wars is between episode 2 and episode 3.
But the end of 7, doesn't that start to bleed into
it does
a little
bit? Yeah. In the last episode.
Okay, all right. So if you
if
watch Revenge, and then
I don't want to spoil anything.
It's the very
last
end
season of Clone Wars and episode 3 blur and overlap in many ways.
A little bit, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you just watch Clone Wars and then do episode 3, you should be fine.
You've already seen 3, so like you already know the context of what's happening in Clone Wars.
And then we're gonna watch Rebels to like. I was like, the only thing I need to get her to do is play like Jedi Knight Fallen Order. And then we'll put
there you go. Then it'll be the circle will be complete.
It is a really good game.
Yeah. My wife, she's great. She actually, I did not know about this anything or the only the meat concept with Clone Wars when we watched it. So both of us have seen every single Clone Wars episode, and I will say it was an experience. But I would definitely recommend Jay for you or anyone else that wants to watch Clone Wars to skip some episodes.
Yeah.
It's just there's so many, and a lot of them are really bad. A lot of them are really good, but a lot of them are really bad.
It's all the filler ones where you can tell they're like, we just need something to happen for an
now
episode.
What about okay, I know we're running out of time, but really quick, so 2 questions. There was that amazing Cartoon Network cartoon series that was actual animation, 2D animation, that was in the Clone Wars. Does that have any bearing on anything, or is that just
it doesn't go into canon, but it's a good time and it's not long.
Okay,
like the entire first season of that is like 40 minutes and the entire second season is like an hour.
And do you have to watch the original Clone Wars movie?
No, skip that
straight
entirely.
Up skip
that. Go straight into the show. Just know that Ahsoka is like a Padawan for Anakin during the Clone Wars because the war is going on, and so there's like less people to temple training, so like essentially they start giving Padawans to Jedi Knights to like continue their training during the war. That's like the only thing you need to know that comes from that show, the movie. I don't remember the movie being very good.
Perfect.
I haven't seen it, but I got a similar warning, so I have not seen it.
I've seen, I think, every Star Wars film, including like the old Ewoks shows and droids and all that.
Really?
Well, I watched Clone Wars as it came out. So I saw it with all the filler. It's like you didn't know what would be filler.
Right.
Was it?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not going to miss it. So.
Yep. All right.
It's good stuff. And with new units, go out there, watch these shows. Dave Filoni's a genius, and this is like his brain baby. If you like Mando, like Clone Wars is also his thing.
Well, and there's lots of cameos from the Clone Wars and Rebels in a lot of these new shows. Like, I have a feeling with this new Ahsoka show, if you have not seen Star Wars Rebels, you're going to be pretty darn confused. So
that's I got kind of that understanding as well. And then after like the Cad Bane thing, and then some of the Obi-Wan stuff, like I was just she's just like, okay, we gotta watch everything now, and I'm like, okay, let's do that.
Cad Bane's a good
awesome.
poster child for it because he's so cool in he's like, we don't need to get into critiquing Star Wars shows, but he's like one of the cool parts of Book of Boba Fett. And he's a great villain in Clone Wars.
He's also in Bad Batch. Pretty extensively. So is he in Rebels too? That's the one that I've seen least recently, so I don't actually remember.
I don't remember him being in it.
Okay.
This is going to show just how much of a Star Wars nerd. He was originally supposed to die, but then Clone Wars got cut short, so they never aired that episode. And so this is gonna be major Book of Boba Fett spoilers. So if you don't want to hear what happens in the last episode, tune out now. But there was a deleted episode where basically Boba fights Cad Bane, and Boba ends up killing him. But during that fight, Cad Bane like wins and pins him by his throat and like shoots him where he gets the dent. And he says, "Let this be a lesson to you." And then Book of Boba Fett, he does the same thing, pins Boba, but this time kicks off his helmet and says, "Let this be my final lesson to you." And so that's like a real Dave Filoni deep cut of an unaired deleted scene. And so it's a fun take of, his dent is supposed to be from Cad Bane and deleted scene, but they changed it so he doesn't die in that. he dies later, but it's like the same scene, but switches it from "Let This Be My Lesson" to the final. So me as a hyper Star Wars nerd, I was like, oh, that's from the deleted scene. He's referencing it. He gave him the dent, confirmed.
Am I the only one that thought that fight was really lame?
Would he
Cad
stab
Bane
him
and
at the
Boba?
end?
Yeah.
Agreed.
I thought how he finished it, yeah, but I love that Cad Bane just wrecked him. I thought that part was cool.
Sure, but I don't know. It was such an ignoble death for such a great villain, but frankly, and I'm sorry, Boba fans, a really boring character. I feel like we should end this show before we get too far down this rabbit hole.
We're
well, yeah, I would agree, but I think the thing I had to keep reminding myself that Cad Bane was 80, in human, if he was he was like Clint Eastwood from Unforgiven, at the end of it, right?
It's not that I don't believe that Boba could have killed him. I'm just kind of sad that Cad Bane got killed by somebody that was as lame as Boba.
See, I think this was for me similar to the Maul Obi-Wan fight, where I thought it was Dave Filoni genius of referencing all these things, but it was reference to stuff that never aired. So maybe it's less of a. For me, I loved it just because I knew all the little references.
Maybe I just didn't get the joke. Yeah. Didn't get the inside thing. I just feel like Boba Fett was better as a character, that you could kind of project whatever personality you wanted onto him, and then he got personality. And anyway,
I don't know who thought it was gonna be exciting to have Disney put on a show about a drug crime lord and to expect it to turn out how it did.
Right.
There's no anti-hero in Disney. There's only heroes.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It was just the same thing as Anyway, I don't want to go too far off the rails. Right? Yeah, bounty hunters. Yes, bounty hunters. I'm very excited about On the Table Boba. I may not like his character in Book of Boba Fett, but I love his model on the Legion cool table. Boba. This is still cool Boba. Yes,
he's even cool in Mando still.
He is, and that's because he doesn't do much. I mean, he does stuff, but he doesn't talk much, right?
Yeah.
So he's still cool Boba, who you can kind of project the Boba Fett persona onto. Yeah. That's the Boba that is going to be on my table when I field him. So anyway, speaking of, I guess we should mention one last thing, because they kind of mentioned this at Star Wars Celebration. For those that are like, hey, where's the love for Republic and Rebels in this release? Grogu and the Mandalorian are going to be apparently for Rebels, and they will be their first bounty hunter that they can access. And then they've previously said that Boba Fett from that era, the Mandalorian era, so new Boba, Dad Bod Boba, whatever you want to call him, will be also available to Rebels. So none of this helps Republic.
Right. I was just going to say, poor Republic. Mando based on the boxes, Empire and Rebels.
Yes.
Because we do have the image of that, right?
Yeah, the box does say that.
I said that to somebody the other day, and they're like, what? And I'm like, well, if you think about it, the first couple episodes,
he was
working for the Empire, really, because he's just a bounty hunter at that point, right?
Right.
So
I think thematically, it would be weird if you could also take Grogu if you take him in the Empire.
Yeah, I'm sure. Hopefully, there's something. I'm sure.
Well, hopefully, they could easily do it like a counterpart, and the counterpart is faction specific.
It's faction locked, yeah.
Yeah, so R2 and 3PO, but you just get a Rebels Grogu, because I don't know, for Empire, like you said, he's like a captive when he's with the Empire. I don't feel like he's be fighting for him.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how, I don't know, we're getting into speculation territory. It'll be interesting to see how they do it organizationally, such that you can kind of have different time periods, because it'd be weird to have Mandalorian on the field with, Commander Luke or Han or something I don't know.
Well, Op Luke works. You could do a hero battle force where you have all the rebel units, but certain time periods, so unique people. But I guess Leia fights with the resistance and stuff. So
yeah, I mean they exist in the same time period. It would just be kind of weird. Anyway, we're getting too far.
None of this matters.
Down the rabbit hole. Yeah.
All right. Let's land it.
Yep. All right.
Bring it home.
We are the Notorious Scoundrels. I'm Kyle.
Oh, I'm Jay. Yeah.
And I'm Dr. Lucas.
Yeah, Dr. Lucas. There you go. Anyway, stay fresh, cheese bags.